Hello and welcome to Getting Started with Thinkorswim. My name is James Boyd. We welcome you here on this Wednesday. We also have Brett Crowther in the chat, so we welcome him here as well. Many of you remember him. He actually does come on some of our trader talks that we've been doing in the morning, so check him out. It's great to see him back. And we also got Christopher with us, Will, Greg, hello, WW, Elena, Ron, Sharon, and many others. Now, you might be wondering, where's Cameron? Cameron's not here. I'm not Cameron, and Cameron's not me, and we're fine with that. Cameron and I used to teach what's called the stock capstone, and so we had some funny interactions. He's a good man. Now, just real quick as we get started, this class, Getting Started with Thinkorswim, I want to kind of talk about how it's normally taught, and I want to kind of talk about bringing those pieces together, okay? So just real quick as we get started, remember you can follow any of us instructors on X. My handle is @JamesBoydCS, capital J, capital B. And also just real quick as we get started, want to give us a quick reminder that the information here is provided for general informational purposes only. I don't plan necessarily to talk about options. If you had a question on options, we're not getting into options, deep options. We might show an example of an option trade, but we're not going into that. We're talking about the Thinkorswim platform per se and how to do trades and adjust positions, things like that. Also remember that our examples here today will use the Paper Money software application. I'll also mention two others as well and where you can find those. And also remember that investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Now, just real quick, what I want to do, let me change something so we can see the very bottom. The page is kind of cut off for just a second. Let me see if I can get that. There we go. Let me see if I can get that to come off. There we go. Okay, just want to get that bottom piece there. So just real quick as we get going, the outlay of the class was really over 8 different lessons. Now, if you said, James, where do I find those lessons? I'm going to show you in just a moment. So downloading and navigating Thinkorswim, very important, okay? And monitor tab, okay? Trade tab, charts tab, scan tab, market watch tab, analyze tab, tools, education, and help tab. So that's how it was broken down. And I'm going to share with you those links in just a moment. The one thing is, it's great that we break it down like this, but it's still at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, can you apply the little mini sessions? I mean, that's really what it comes down to, okay? We can break this down, but how comfortable do you feel to use these lessons together? And that's what we're going to talk about here today. And that's, I think, where we can value add. Now, also real quick, as we get going, you might be wondering, well, where do I go to even download Thinkorswim? Let me show you some resources that I want to share with you, and I'm going to pull that up right here. So first off, if we went to just schwab.com, we don't even log in, okay? You're going to see at the very top of the page, and if you said, James, can you share with me that link just real quick? You're now going to notice we can go up to the very top, and we could just click on accounts and products, and you're going to see that it will say Thinkorswim trading platforms. We didn't even log in, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I want to reference 2 links, okay? So if I click on those, Thinkorswim trading platforms, it's going to show us, as I scroll down now, okay? Now, when I scroll down, you're now going to see that it will show us one version of Thinkorswim, which is called Thinkorswim Desktop. We call that the software-based version, okay? And you could just say, I'd like to learn more about it, or log in to download. So it's using your username and password for schwab.com to download it. The second version we have of this is Thinkorswim Mobile. We know that a lot of us, more than others, might be using your phones or tablets. I'm guilty of both. And what you're now going to notice is Thinkorswim is an app which you can download from Google Play if you're a Samsung user, and or the App Store if you're an Apple user. It's free, okay? The last type of version we actually have is the Thinkorswim Web. So let's say you're traveling abroad, you don't have your computer with you. You could go to a website, okay, and actually use like Thinkorswim on a web-based version. It's not the software. It's not downloaded to the computer. Software we need to download to the computer. Thinkorswim Web, we're not downloading. It's a website. okay? So no matter where you are, Thinkorswim is there, okay? Now, one thing is I want to kind of just make mention just real quick is this link right here is the playlist that Cameron has been putting together. This list is important. I would save this, okay? Now, when you kind of think about the Thinkorswim platform, it is the tool to really trade in and or invest in the ideas that you're thinking about. It's the tool that you're actually using to invest, okay? To put the orders in, to adjust the orders, to allocate the capital, and so on. And think of it as the doorway, okay? Now, you're going to see on the right-hand side here, the lessons 1 through 8 are just on the right-hand side. So if you feel like you need help on any of those specific lessons, I'd go back and watch some of that because Cameron probably covered that, okay? And now, the also thing is if you said, James, I'm used to using the Thinkorswim software, the desktop version, but I am not used to using, let's say, the mobile. Well, I happen to do a series on going through how do we use, let's say, an iPhone or a Samsung device, or how do we use a tablet? And what you're now going to notice is on the right-hand side, and let me send that link to you, you're now going to see is the Thinkorswim mobile, right? Monitoring your portfolio on the go. Your phone becoming an investing tool, okay? How do I look at charts and a watch list on mobile? Stock orders on TOS mobile, okay? Going mobile with your investing and so on. What about if you're using advanced options on mobile? How do you do that? So this is another space, or I want to trade options, or I want to kind of manage my option positions on my mobile. Well, it's right there, okay? So these are little 20-minute sessions, okay? Right there that I would make sure that you know. Here's the thing, I'm not always sitting at a computer. I think probably Thinkorswim, probably the most applicable for all of us, just to even see what's going on in the market, etc., is the mobile, okay? Because we all have lunch breaks. We all have a little break during the day or whatever. We got 5 minutes on our hands sitting in an office, doctor's office, whatever. Got an appointment, we're waiting. Using the mobile is very important. So that last link I sent to you, I would make sure you know that inside and out. Now, let's go ahead and go to just real quick, the Thinkorswim platform. So first off, just real quick is when we download that Thinkorswim, and remember, if you can go to schwab.com, we can go right to the very tippy top, the settings. Let me just show that one more time. We're not even logged in. Schwab.com. Now, I wonder if I take it back to just Schwab.com and there's nothing there, okay? Well, if I go to Schwab.com, it's going to take us to that. We go to accounts and products, and you're going to see that Thinkorswim trading platforms. Now, the one thing I do want to make mention, if you said, James, I want to know the differences between why I would use and some of the pros and cons of one versus the other, click on that platform's overview. That gives a nice table of what's the benefits of using one and functionality versus the other. Okay, now so why did I hit that again? Because anything I show you from now on, if you don't know how to download the platform, then anything I talk about is not very helpful, at least right now. Now, let's kind of let's imagine that we've downloaded the platform. We log in and we pull it up. Now, first thing I want to kind of hit just real quick is, James, my background is maybe silver or it's gray. How do I change the background? How do I change the font size? Just real quick. We're going to go up to the very tippy top, the setup. And again, pretty standard functionality, right? Anything that has a gear, settings, right? We're going to click on the setup and we're going to go to application settings. If I click on the application settings right there, you're now going to notice is it's going to give us some options here. And what we're looking for is the look and feel, okay? Now, if I click on that look and feel, it's going to allow us to say, well, James, mine's not like yours. Mine's light. This has this gray color. Can I change it to the dark color like you're showing? Yep, right there, okay? We have it labeled dark. I have it labeled high contrast. You can show what the difference is right there. And also, if you said, James, I want the font size a little bit bigger, okay, like there, okay? And so you're going to see the example of what that looks like, okay? Now, the other thing is, I'll keep it large for just a moment for our purposes. You'll see why. And I'm going to go to application settings, okay? So our goal here today that we want to do is we want to say, okay, we saw the 8 lessons that Cameron taught. How do I apply what was taught? What are some of the basic functionality that probably an investor is going to be using quite a bit? Now, I want to imagine that a friend calls you up, and let's hypothetically say the person's name is Todd. And Todd calls you up and says, man, you need to look at this stock, okay? And you say, I just downloaded this Thinkorswim platform. Maybe I should get on that. And so the biggest thing is that we're going to go to a tab here in just a moment. But the biggest thing is when we look at this, you're now going to see that whenever if you've ever gotten a new car, you know that when you first drive it, you're like, dadgummit, where is the blasted button for this? How do I turn the wiper blades on? How do I do whatever, okay? So there's always kind of like getting used to it, even a new TV, right? Well, I saw Thinkorswim 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. Up until that time, I had probably used 10 different platforms. And for the last 20 years, Thinkorswim, if I had taken a picture of Thinkorswim, this view has not changed in 20 years. Now, someone might say, well, I want stuff to change. A lot of people don't want stuff to change. They kind of want to use their tools as tools, and they get used to how to use those tools. Now, some of the functionality of those tools, they've changed, or they've enhanced over the years. But this view has not changed. Now, the biggest actually thing is the monitor tab is going to monitor our orders and our positions. Thank heavens. Number 2, trade tab. This is where we're going to go in and actually put the stock trade. We're going to talk about stock trades, maybe an option trade. But if we want to do, let's say, a stock trade, we're going to go to the trade tab, which shouldn't be a surprise. It's called trade tab, right? And the reason why I say it like that is a lot of times we look at these tabs and say we don't know what it does. Well, it's going to be actually more logical than you think. Analyze. Now, analyze. You think about an engineer when I say that, or an accountant. The analyze is going to kind of get it. I call it the detail tab. Okay? This is where we're kind of looking for some nitty-gritty stuff, some specifics. Don't use it a ton, but think of it as a reference. Scan. This is when I think of another word for scan, like searching. Okay? Market watch. We're watching the market or a watch list. Or we're having a calendar right there where we can actually see which company have earnings, which company have dividends coming up, and so on. What's some economic releases and so on. So we're watching the market calendar, and we're also watching, let's say, a list of stocks. Okay? Charts, surprise, we're going to actually pull up some charts, and which it can be customized to our liking technically. Now, if we went to education, this is where we're going to see some articles written on different topics that we can actually go to that will look very similar to Schwab.com. Perfect. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to just real quick. Let's imagine that your friend says, hey, pull up Google for just a second. Okay. Now, if we went to the charts tab, and again, we know nothing. Okay. If I clicked on the charts tab, and if I went to, let's say, that tab right there, click on the charts tab. Let me make that a little bit bigger so we can see that. Charts tab, I'm just making it a little bit bigger. Let's try a little larger. Okay, there it goes. Charts. If I click on charts, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in Google, example given. Now, when you kind of think about investing in general, someone is probably thinking about, if I wanted to maybe buy something, how do I buy it? Okay, so one of the functionalities of this chart is you're going to now notice, let me back this off for just a hair because it's a little bit big, larger. Let's see if that's sizing. Yeah, there you go. Now, so the first thing what you're going to notice is if someone wanted to buy the shares of the stock right on the chart, simple as it gets, okay? Right click on the chart, right click, okay? And what you're now going to notice is if we said, let's say buy, wherever we right click on the chart, that's where it's going to create the buy order price. And you're going to see that price comes up. Where I right clicked is at 169.37. Creates an order just like that. Okay. Now, if you said, well, I don't want to do that. I want to kind of right click on that chart. I want to now go to, let's say, where it says buy custom. And I'm now going to go with stop, okay? So if we're stock trading, by the way, it could even be ETFs as well, like we talked about on Monday afternoon, Friday morning. If we went buy custom with stop and I click on that, you're now going to notice it brings up, let's close that left sidebar. It's going to bring up 2 rows. The first row is in green. That is the buy order. It's in green. And the sell, the second row, there is in red. Okay? So that's really not that bad. So the nice thing about this, if we're doing a stock trade or an ETF trade, we don't need to bounce back and forth between charts and trade. We don't need to do that. We can buy and sell right off the chart. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is the price that it's at now. So if I look at this buy plus 100, let's say we don't want to do 100. Let's say we just want to do 10 shares. We'll just type in plus 10. Now, if we have 10, let's say, for example, given we sell 10. Okay, fine. So we're buying 10 plus 10. We're going to sell 10 minus 10. And this price right here, 169.85, limit, that it's what it sounds like, okay? If you were at your limit, that means you ain't going any further, okay? This is saying I'm willing to buy up to the limit price of 169.85. And that is good for the day from 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern, okay? And let's say we put a stop, just example given, let's say we put it at 161.50, hypothetically. And let's say we said, James, I want to set that stop right at a good till cancel order, okay? Now, if we did GTC there, good till canceled, now what you're going to see is this is a classic, we're buying the stock and we're setting the stop. Now, if we go confirm and send, you're now going to see that that order is going to be on the chart. So if I send this, what you're now going to see is we're going to get those lines on the chart. And let me kind of just pull something up just real quick. Let me just grab. Yeah, okay. Now, if I pull this up, and let me just go to the Paper Money account, okay? We're going to right-click on that chart just like we did. Going to go to Buy Custom with Stop. And if I did that, and I'm just going to put those 10 shares back, okay, 10 shares, just like we did before, and we put that stop right at 161.50, day to GTC. Showed it to you again. And if we send that order, confirm and send, we get a little pop-up window. Now, this is very important. Don't blow through this window and think, oh, I know, because we've all made mistakes, including myself. You want to read this order out loud and say, is this what I want to do? With stop orders, there's no guarantee that the execution price, what it fills at, will be equal to or near the activation price. Now, if I send that, what's going to happen is you're going to see that plus 10 sitting right there. It's saying it's going to buy up to the price of 169.92, but it could fill at a lower price level. And now what you're going to notice is the stop is sitting right there. Now, it also came up and it actually filled. We'll go to that in just a sec. And we can physically see where that stop is on the chart. Now, one of the questions we always get is, so how do you zoom in? This is like a PDF document, okay? The simplest way to do it, or I should say the more standard, down at the bottom right, follow my mouse, okay? Down at the bottom right, there's a plus magnifying glass, okay? Down here, and plus magnifying glass, it just zooms in. Plus magnifying glass, zooms out. Now, if you already know that, and you say, James, could I just left click and drag on the chart and zoom in on that portion? That's the way we normally do it. But if you want to go old school, zoom in and zoom out at the bottom right, go for it. Now, we can also now see where that stop is right there. Okay, now, one of the questions that we have sometimes is, well, can you cancel the stop? Sure, click on the X. Can you move up the stop? Sure. You can left click and do not click on the X. If you click on the X, it will cancel the order. If you left click on that minus 10 STP for stop, left click on that and drag it up, what it's actually doing is it's moving up the stop order. Now, if I let go now, it's now saying, hey, the stop is going to be moved up to 163.75. And if I say, okay, fine, send that order, what it does is it just moves up the stop. Okay. Now, the biggest thing is what I want to kind of get to is also is with this is if we went back to the monitor tab. Now, remember what I said is monitor, we're going to monitor our orders and our positions. Now, if I went back to, let's say, that page, the monitor tab, you're now going to see three areas where it says working orders. Think of this as stops, maybe buy orders or target prices. Anything that was filled today, we see that in chronological order, and anything that we canceled. Well, that's not too bad. The ones you're going to be really looking at the most is probably, did anything fill? And or is there a working order? Remember, it could be an order to buy or sell that just hasn't filled, or you could think of it as like a stop loss, a target, and so on, okay? Now, down below, you're going to see a position statement. It's going to state our positions from A to Z. So if we had, let's say, Alphabet stock or something, let's go Alcoa, and then we had something like Zoom Media, okay? It's going to list those stocks from A to Z. Now, the one thing I do want to value at here is on the right-hand side, you're going to see that we have three lines. Just to the right of where it says adjust account. Now that adjust account is only in the Paper Money platform, okay? So at the very top left, we see PM for Paper Money. And what you're now going to notice is if I go to the right of where it says adjust account, click on the three lines, we're going to select it where it says old layout, okay? Now, remember when I said it's going to list the stocks or the positions, stocks and options, etc., from A down to Z. I don't have a stock that starts with a Z, so it goes down to XOM. And we see that there. Now, I don't know about you, but how many of you have ever put positions on and said to yourself, how do you manage these positions? I don't even know what these positions are. Have you ever said that before? Now, this point that I'm making, I think, is really critical. Because most people could probably go in there and go to the trade tab and click on the ask and they could buy something. But at the end of the day is, how do you manage the positions? Okay? And how does that relate to using the Thinkorswim platform? Well, let's example give and say we took a stock like BA. And if we said, well, James, how would I know if this is a stock or an option? Well, when I click on that BA, when I just click right on it, it says STK plus 12. There's an order for it, something. And if I click on that order, it's going to tell us what is the order. Okay? And it looks like there's a stop and a target price. Now, one of the questions I always had is, how do I know where I got in? Okay? And if you go to the profit and loss column and you click right on that, okay? One way you could see that, click on it, is you're going to see, well, where did I get in? Okay. Well, we got in one time recently on May 8th. Here's the time we put the trade on. How many shares? It's a stock position. That's the price we paid. And the mark is where the stock is now. Thus, the profit and loss given 12 shares is 124.44. Okay. So that's where we could see it. That's one way we could do it. Now, one of the things I think is critically important that I want to make sure you do this in terms of your homework assignment is right-click on those shares. So we need some shares here. So if you say, James, I have the Paper Money account. I don't know. I don't have any positions yet. Go in and buy some things in the Paper Money account. It doesn't matter if it's one share, two shares. It doesn't matter. We're going to right-click on the shares itself. Okay, and we're going to say now move to group. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of like to have folders. And I like to kind of label the folders based upon what type of strategy it is. So if we did a stock position, I want to put it in the stock folder. Okay, if we, for example, said, hey, I like to do cash secured puts or short puts, I want to have a folder that says cash secured puts. Now, what I'm going to do is if you say, well, James, I don't have any of those folders. How do I make the folders? Well, you right click on any of the position you have and you go down to move to group and you say add group. Now, we have Eva with us here today, okay? So what I'm going to do is Eva, okay? And now what you're going to notice is I'm going to say name of the group, Eva, click OK. Now, it didn't do anything. Well, you got to remember, this view that we're looking at is really what they call the old layout. The old layout is just going to state your positions from A to Z. Where's the beauty come in? The beauty comes in is when we go to the new layout. The new layout puts your positions in folders. If I click on new layout now, new layout, you're now going to see that Eva is right at the top where she always is. Don't act surprised. Now, let's have a little fun. Now, you got to remember, Eva and I, we probably live within an hour of each other, okay? My parents still live there, but they're selling the house, okay? And they're moving out to Utah here. So not much longer down in that area, but beautiful area, beautiful people. Okay, now, if we take a look at this, there's the stock position. So let's do something just real quick. Can you give me, for example, a stock position? Give me a stock you want to take a look at, okay? And let me show you how we use this. What's the stock position? No, I'm not a hero. I'm just telling the truth, okay? It's not my fault. Okay, give me a stock position. Give me a ticker symbol, okay? Now, if we take a look at this, just give me a stock symbol, and I want to just kind of use, just real quick, one of the symbols you're looking at. Okay, CR, so I'm not familiar with that one, but let me kind of just use, let's kind of see what we got. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's go to the trade tab. Let's say the investor said, James, I want to come in and do a trade. Going to click on the trade tab. Okay, we then type in the symbol. Not too bad. And then what we're now going to see is, wonder if the investor just wanted to buy 1 or 2 shares. Example given. How do you learn? You practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the ask price. I'm only going to left click right in the ask price. Left click. Now what this does is when I left click, this is like one click functionality. Okay. It's like you're ordering off a tablet. Okay. At Shake Shack or something like that. You just click, what do you want? Well, I want shares of CoreWeave. Okay, we'll click on the ask price. It's going to add that right to the basket. And now what you're going to see is plus 100. That's a default. You can change that by going to the settings at the top right. Now, what I'm going to do is only plus 1. Okay, 1 share of stock. How do we know it's stock? It tells us it's stock. There's no expiration, there's no strike. Now, when we come to confirm and send for just a moment, you're now going to notice it's going to say account. Well, the account that we're trading out of is the IRA. So first thing what you'll notice is, if you say, well, James, I have an IRA, and my wife has the IRA as well, my son has a margin account, and then I have for the grandkids, maybe a college fund account, whatever, what you're now going to notice is if you go to multiple accounts right here, it's going to show you what accounts are linked to that username and password. Now, this is very applicable for probably most everyone, okay? They usually don't have one account. Different accounts might have different purposes and reasons. So what you're now going to see is we're just going to say, look, we're going to buy 1 share in the margin account, okay? And actually, what I'm going to do is, let's go margin account. And what I'm going to do is let me edit that for just a sec. Now, when I do that, also notice we can select, and actually I want to do this in the IRA, okay, because that's where we did, okay, that's where we put Eva there. So we're going to put in the IRA, and if I edit that order, you're now going to notice is we're going to put that stock position right there, right in Eva. So when this buys, it's going to put this CRWV right in the Eva folder. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is super important, okay? Someone doesn't have to be, anyone could just buy and sell stuff for the most part, right? It's how do you manage the positions? So I think some of the major functionality here is how do we actually kind of use the platform, not only put positions on, and take them off, but how to manage the positions. Now, let's go back to monitor. Why? Because it monitors our orders and our positions. Click on monitor. Now, what I'm expecting to see is in the EVA folder, we had BA, and then we also, for example, have CRWV, and we could see that position right here. Now, I know you have never done this. I'm joking, but I have. But let's say the investor says, James, I want to, for example, sell my shares of BA, or I want to set a stop on my position. Well, the biggest thing that we really need to do is we could just right click on any of those rows, and it's going to say create a closing order. And if we said, James, I just want to get out, right click, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this top row. If I right click on that symbol, right click, and just click on sell, pick that top row, it's going to take us back to the trade tab. Why? Well, because we're doing a trade. What is the trade? It's in red, which means we're selling the one share. And now what you're going to notice is we're going to confirm and send. Now, if I confirm and send for just a moment, you're now going to see that there's the share of stock, there's the price. And by the way, we don't necessarily have to, do 106.69. You might say, James, I want to get 106.85 or try to. So when you're a seller, you're saying, look, the floor of what I'm willing to accept is 106.85. That's the limit or the low of what I'm willing to accept. And if I go confirm and send, we now see that there would be a credit if it were to fill. There's not a commission for selling that. And now what you see is we're going to go ahead and send the order. Now, if that stock was trading up above that limit price, it could fill at a higher price level. If we go back to the monitor tab, we can see underneath filled orders, what was the order purchased for? We can see that. And then number two, what was it sold for? All right. Now, Brian, you're awesome. Okay, just here's the thing. I think a lot of times when I saw this back in 2004, 2003, I remember literally looking at this platform thinking, man, this blew my mind, because a lot of the other platforms I had used, they were just mediocre at best. And this kind of felt like one-click functionality. Now, I want to repeat what I said. If I went back 21 years ago or so, if I were to show you the initial page that I showed you, it's the same, which is nice. So you want a tool that you can, like, every day is not like I got to restart from ground zero, right? You want to have something that you feel comfortable with and using all the time, just like your phone. Yeah, there can be some features that are updated, but you want to kind of know the core stays similar. Just like a PC user, Brett, or a Mac user, perhaps, maybe like JB. We just have preferences, don't we? Okay? Some of us are right and some of us are wrong, and we're fine with that. I didn't say you. Now, what I do want to kind of show you is some other features here. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like sometimes, so let me kind of show you something. A lot of us as investors, we like to use what's called, let me say it like this. So notice right here, when we have these folders, and this is something we're going to really focus on here. When I go to, there's a gear, and that gear right there allows us to create some custom columns here. Like what? Well, if I click on that gear right there, gear, you're now going to see that we have some options of what we can choose from. Like, what do you have, James? Well, let me share. Well, you're now going to see is if you said, James, do we really have to go in and click on the profit loss to see where we got in? No. Okay. You could actually go down to the trade price, okay, and just say, look, give me the trade price. And that's what that is right there. James, I want to see the mark. Mark is what that stock is trading at right now. We'll type in mark. And you could just put in mark, and you could just move it over to the right, add it to the right. And what you're now going to see is this mark changes how much the stock is up or down since yesterday. Okay, or, so if this was Monday, in other words, it would have been Friday, right? Now, so that for most people, they kind of like. Now, by the way, is that also with options as well? Speaking of that, if we came in and said, if I had, let's say, an option, and let's say the investor said, James, I want to know, like, what did I do an option trade for? When I pull this up, can it also show me what those options, the trade price was, what's the option trading for now? How much is the option up or down now? The answer is yes. So it's not just stock specific, it can be options as well. Now, getting back to kind of what we're talking about, but I just want to make sure we reference that. It's not just stocks. Now, where I think kind of becomes really interesting, okay? And you're going to see that we've been talking about using scripts. Now, scripts are kind of a way to monitor things, okay? And scripts can be used in many different ways, okay? Now, this column right here is what we call an 8DL. That is really the price. It's the 8-day, stands for the 8-day low. And it's telling us that Boeing's 8-day low was really at 193.06. Well, who cares? Well, sometimes people use days lows as a way to move up stops, or to say, look, if we get down below the 8-day low, I want to sell, the investor says. Well, we don't necessarily have to pull up a chart to see that, okay? What's kind of nice, we can look at what's the mark price now and where's the 8-day low now. Now, some people are like, well, look, James, I'm not a short-term trader like that. I like to use more of the 10-day low. Well, fine, have it your way, okay? Well, the stock's at 204.28 or so. The 10-day low is at 186.22. So if you kind of use days lows in terms of setting stops or adjusting stops, we can actually see where those prices are right on the monitor page. Now, another thing that I think is extremely helpful, okay, maybe everyone doesn't feel the same, is what type of trend do we have? Now, remember, and I'm going to share these with you in just a moment, and I'll make sure these links are in the description of this video. The trend is listed from 1 to 5, okay? And the trend, if we have a trend 4, that's just telling us the stock is above both moving averages, the 10-day exponential and the 30-day simple moving average, but it could be up near an area of resistance. Now, the reason why that color background is orange, what tends to be orange as well? Well, when you start to see the leaves on your trees turning orange, you probably know that they could be hitting the deck sooner or later, and the weather could be changing. So that trend is for the daily chart. Now, this column right there, that's the trend weekly. So in other words, is the weekly chart important? You better believe it's important. That trend weekly is really saying, hey, where are we on the 10-week moving average? Where are we at on the 30-week simple moving average? And if we have a trend 3, that's really saying we're above both moving averages on the weekly chart. Now remember, one of the most powerful things I think about this platform compared to anything I've ever seen is not just putting trades on or off and what's the commission. It's managing positions. So some of the ways we manage these positions is we use the column headings to track stock or option positions. This last thing I'll say here is the 10-day haul and the 20-day haul. That's just counting, that's telling us the color of the moving average on the chart. Scripts are not guaranteed for accuracy or timing. Verify. The color of the background is telling us the color of the moving average. And the numbers in the boxes represent the number of days the stock has had that color of the moving average. Okay, so in other words, if I go look at CRWV, when I pull that stock up, and that stock has probably been that color for a while. Let's double check. So if I go look at the daily chart, you're going to see that the color of the moving average has been that way for a while. Okay, now I don't know how you feel, but if you have 8, 10, 12, 15 positions, physically looking at your stocks on a daily basis, each one of them on the chart, you might say, I got other things I'm doing. The nice thing about what we're talking about is we could actually use the monitor tab as a weapon, an instrument, if you will. and say, how do we actually kind of track the stocks? And these column headings become very important in terms of tracking the trends and maybe potentially adjusting the type of strategy that we're doing based upon the trend. Okay. Now, before I share these with you, my gosh, the time goes by so fast. Okay. Let's just hit this clock over and restart. And we can just say, hey, hit another 45 minutes. So let's say I said to you, hey, how do we use this? Okay. We're going to go look at Amazon for just a second. And what you're now going to notice is we see a trade price, we see a mark level, and we see that the mark right there is very, very close to that 8-day low. Now, let's hypothetically say that, hey, James, that stock right now gets below the $200.06. Well, if the investor says, James, that tends to be my stop, well, that would be an alert visually to say, wow, where's my stop? Is it on? Have I adjusted it? The other thing that we kind of know that tells us we're in a little bit of trouble is that trend 5, which is saying the price has fallen down below the shorter term moving average. So this, for some of us investors, becomes really like it's like a cockpit, a trading cockpit, as far as really putting on positions, but managing the positions, evaluating them, setting the targets, the stops, changing the strategy, and so on. That's where I think really the differences between platforms are. It's not just putting it on and what's the commission, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this just real quick. Let me share these with you, because that'd be really sad if I didn't share them with you. That'd just be horrible, okay? Now, what I want to do is this, what I'm sending to you right now is the 8-day low, okay? So I'm just going to put this right here. This is the 8-day low. Now, don't worry, I'm going to put these in the description as well of the video. So when you pull up the video, which this has been recorded, you can go back and watch the video and see it also in 10-day low. There's the 10-day low. Now, if I said to you, James, could you give me that trend right there? Yeah, let me share that with you. And by the way, think of this monitor page for you. This is like your home plate, okay? This is what you're going to be looking at quite a bit to manage positions, okay? And you want to kind of make it where you can, you're trying to actually have things that can help you make potential decisions and track. I sent that right there. And let me just put on, let's say, these last two. I can do them fast. Now, don't worry if you don't write all these down, but I just want to make sure that everyone 10 whole, okay? Put that right there. And the last one right there is that, okay? 20 whole. All right, here we go. All right. Now, don't worry if you say I didn't write all those down. I'm going to put them in the description, okay? So where I thought I could add value, Cameron talked about lessons 1 through 8, going down through little bits and pieces, where I think there's probably some areas that are under discussed, where there's some value to actually bring. It's how do I really make that monitor tab something where I'm just not just looking at a stack of positions and I look at that and say, how do I manage my portfolio? I don't think that's very helpful, okay? I mean, it states positions, but I have no clue what they are, where we bought in, where we got in, etc. But now all of a sudden, you're now going to see that if we go to new layout, by making the folders, number 1, and that's what I want you to do for homework. Number 2, I want you to start going on and say, put in some of these column headings so that way you can track where you got in, where the stops potentially could be, what the trends are currently, and where the price is in relationship to the moving averages. And that might help the investor to say, I'm going to continue to ride the trend and or sayonara, auf Wiedersehen. I'm going to get out, okay? And that is what I wanted to really discuss here today. Now, the other thing I want to kind of make mention is if we went back to this for just a moment. Now, remember, if you said, James, can I go back to where you have a playlist? Where do you have like a playlist? Where is this going to be posted? Well, this is the playlist for this class on learning, think, or swim. Getting started with Think or Swim, which the monitor page, you'd think if we were going to get started, that monitor page would probably be pretty important. That's why we kind of talked about it. Now, so make sure you actually check that out. Now, you can also find us. The other page I want to make sure you reference is If you said, James, I really want to learn more about mobile, okay? How do I use that on a phone or a tablet? Make sure you actually check out that link as well. And also remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube page, Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcast. It's free. Okay, it's a nice round number for you. Free. Now, I'm out of my time here today, and I want to say thanks for the comments and questions and participation. Thank you, Brett, as well, for answering those questions and being having a little fun with us here today with the Apple and Samsung comments. It never gets old. No, it never does. Now, remember that with what we discussed, it was done for example purposes only. And remember to go out and do your homework, set up your monitor page, how you like to see it. How do you best read the information? What information do you want to see? Customize that page. Put your folders together per your liking. That's your homework assignment. Stay tuned for our next webcast coming up right at the top of the hour. And this has been the class on getting started with Thinkorswim. Take care. Bye-bye.